looks a little weird, doesn't it? That's all right. Maybe I look a little bit arrogant. I can promise I'm not. And the reason why I'm sitting down is because my anxiety is so incredibly high at this moment that I can't even feel my legs. I can't feel my legs, and on top of that, my mind just might go blank. That's why I have cards here, just in case, just to make sure I'm interesting enough for everyone. So I'm the last up, and I've heard some amazing people, and I think that's what they have to say is incredible work. But it made me reflect on something that kind of pertains to my talk, which is that when I was first offered to do a TED Talk, when I had the opportunity to take it, of course I jumped on that. I thought that was incredible, you know? Get the chance to speak before my peers and those I care about and say something awesome and worthwhile. And then it hit me. I don't know what that is. And even to this moment right now, to a certain degree, I still don't know what that is. But I can tell you that's okay. I might not be sure what it is that I feel I have to say, because on paper, I wrote down everything that I thought would be interesting. I wrote down my past before college, I wrote down my college experience, and sure, I think I've done some interesting things, but at the end of the day, also at the same time, I didn't think any of it was noteworthy enough. More importantly, I didn't feel enough. I didn't feel like I had a voice that needed to say something, you know, scream from the mountains and make sure you heard. Instead, I came across this empty thought of, what if I have nothing to offer at this very moment? And I think that's exactly what I have to offer. That in itself, that nothing that I think most people are afraid of, especially college students, where we come into college thinking we're going to define ourselves, we're going to figure out who we are, what we're good at, and why we're good at it. Well, I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'm a junior, I'm about to have one more year yet left and going off to the world, and I still haven't figured it out. And that's okay. I think that's fine. And that's exactly what I wanted to touch upon. That identity and that mentality, walking in knowing that you might not know exactly who you are at that very moment, but it doesn't mean you don't have anything to say. Now, to kind of take an unorthodox note, I'm going to start a little bit differently, which is that I love tattoos. You might have noticed I have a few on me that you can see visibly right now. I started when I was 18, you know, Leland, New York. Couldn't do it earlier. That sucked. But one of the ones that I had gotten was a Shakespeare quote from Shakespeare's Hamlet. It's the very famous line of, "This above all, to thine own self be true." Wow, it's a hell of a quote. I don't know what it means. I got it on my arm though. It sings for life, so I gotta know something, right? And I thought to myself, you know, I heard that growing up all the time. I had fantastic parents who told me, just do you. Be who you are, figure out who you are, and everything else will come easy. That's awesome. But then I thought more about the tattoo on my arm. I put it there because it was significant to a particular person. I put it there because I heard it all my life. But what did it really mean? More importantly, why did Shakespeare feel it needed to be said? Are we not already who we are meant to be? Why is it not obvious? Well, perhaps because it simply is not. Perhaps the journey that we're on, the simple fact that we define ourselves in particular terms, the reason that, you know, we're so scared of that nothingness, I think is so incredibly daunting that sometimes we don't take a moment to step back and say, hey, it's okay, I don't know. I just don't know. And I think this kind of ties into my identity personally, trying to figure that out as I'm speaking before you all and still not knowing that result. And I think what it made me recognize was being a younger version of myself and how I perceived identity back then. Now for me that happened when I was about 12, 13 years old. As a little forward, I have done martial arts for 11 years. I'm a second-degree black belt. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. What it means is that by the time I was 12 or 13, I was testing for the second degree, which simply means the next rank, the next black belt that I was obtaining at that time. You can go up to 9. I was going for my second. And part of that testing, we had to do something that's called knife sparring, which is literally as it sounds. You're facing an opponent who's wielding a knife. Mind you, these should be rubber knives. Why? Because it's illegal across the board to have anything but. Did that stop my instructor though? No. That's the law when you can do something interesting. That's why I have a story. So at 12 or 13, with my opponent being a 16-year-old boy, my instructor thought those of us testing were not taking it seriously enough. So what did she do? She handed my opponent a double-edged dagger and said, attack. Silence. Mind completely blown. 12 or 13, I'm like, oh, this is it, this is death. I'm here to tell you it's not the case. It's awesome. But I think what struck me the most in that moment was that no one, not one parent, and there were many parents, those from my superior ranking students, those from my inferior ranking students, those who were testing with me, not a singular parent or student said a word. Except for my father. Whether it be because he was bold or crazy, to this day I couldn't tell you. And I can't remember the words specifically, but I can remember the feeling of being directly in the middle. In the middle of my parent on one side screaming the injustices and the craziness of the situation, which, let's be honest, it's crazy. And my instructor, who I had implicitly trusted with everything on my journey to this test, to the next rank, with discipline, with respect. And I just heard the screams on both sides. And yet, I continued the fight. Now, to some that might be, wow, you kept going, even though I'm sobbing. My opponent with a 16-year-old hand is shaking because he can't hold that knife, and that scares me even more. And I step back now and realize that was the first moment of failure for me. That moment, when I knew something was wrong, and I continued with it anyway, was something that I let define me. It defined me probably up until I got to college when I stopped doing martial arts. Everything about that moment told me who I was, according to my younger self, because I knew everything when I was 12 and 13, right? And it struck me only recently when I'm developing this talk and thinking, what do I have to say? Well, maybe what I have to say is that nothingness from when I was when I was 12, because, it makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, I was a failure. I failed in that moment. And not only did I fail epically because I didn't stick to my own morals and the morals that my family taught me, but I continued with that legacy on. I limited myself. I boxed myself in with this one particular term. And I thought, this is it. This is who I am. Not only do I have to now overcome the obstacles presented to any child, but I now have to overcome my own obstacles. And that, come on, we have high school, right? I've got classes. I've got people to worry about. I've got college to apply to. I need to worry about being a failure too. I mean, yeah, it was hard. It was a little difficult. So now let's fast forward a bit. I go through high school. I go with the branding that I had initially created for myself. I told myself that I was X and I had to be more than X in order to be something. Well, I come to college now. I come to a college where I'm surrounded by awesomely competitive people. And they've done amazing things, and I'm jealous. But at the same time, I can't help but just look back at myself and say, this is a difficult time. You have classes, you have your experiences, and we all go through the hardships, no doubt. But I noticed that I was struggling a bit more than others. And I couldn't quite figure out why. And that's when mental health came into the identity. That's when another weakness, another failure in my brain said, you are just piling up. Just give up now. Well, it's a little bit of a tough thing to kind of, grapple with for a while. And I think that was one of the moments when I realized I'm taking on too much. I'm putting too many boxes, too many limits on my identity. I'm allowing myself to be something that I am told others want me to define myself as. Because these terms are supposed to mean who you are. Because I'm a victim of mental health. Because I'm a failure from the past. All right, this sounds a little dramatic, I know. But in your head you think the worst, right? And I thought the worst. I thought every possible bad thing, why I shouldn't be here, why I shouldn't be in this environment, why I should just give up. And then I saw something interesting, which is the definition of the word definition. I know, who would look that up? I did. Which is why I'm allowed to say something for you today. And the definition of definition, I'm paraphrasing this because who knows the actual words, is that it's the essential nature of something. You're describing with a specific set of words a statement. I thought to myself, wow, I have prescribed and assessed myself by specific statements and specific words that I thought would characterize myself. That I was these words. That these words were all I had. And I think it's most exemplified by that very infamous thing of, especially as students we get, describe yourself in 3 sentences. Oh, yeah, of course. Let me just go through my little book and pull out what's most important. Let me just pull up this fact of, you'd really love to know that, I did martial arts. Or you'd really love to know that I've dyed my hair. Or, that I'm a fun, upbeat person. No. We lie on these things, that's okay. But the fact that we lie and the fact that I have to minimize and condense myself just once again reiterated for me that the idea, that definition, and that defining oneself meant to box oneself in immediately baffled me. I don't think it's something we recognize always. I think sometimes we are so pressured to put certain terms and certain words before us and then live up to them, or perhaps defeat them like I tried to do for so long. And I didn't quite live up to the grand expectation, this grand conclusion that I kind of hoped for. And I think that was a bit disappointing. I was very disappointed. It throws off your whole sense of coming to college and figuring out who you are, why you are, and more importantly, what that's going to mean for you and everyone around you. And that was troublesome. So I think that's ultimately within this whole elaborate thing of me basically saying, I don't think I currently have much to say. And why? Because I currently don't know who I am. But that in itself, through all the lessons that I've explained, is okay. I think I'm surrounded by amazing people. I think that the people who've spoken before me, who might have a better sense, I applaud you. That is amazing. I'm not there yet, but I'm working there. And I think in that sense, it makes me live up to my tattoo. To thine own self be true. I might not know what that fully means yet, but I know what it doesn't mean. And I know that the limitations I put on myself are ones that I can also break away from. The limitations that society has told me because I live up to mental health or because I live up to a past experience when I was 12 years old are not just me. That the words we are struggling so hard to find in those 3 sentences that I gotta write about my entire life to make you think I'm interesting sometimes don't have to actually mean much. And that's okay. So now my nerves have kind of disappeared because I've been rambling on to you. And I'm going to be a little unorthodox and invite all the past speakers who are still here to please come up with me. I ask you to please come up. And I want to say, as I've already reiterated, I have no idea who I am, but I think I have a good sense of who these incredible people are. So in front of everyone, I want to say you are all incredible people who your lessons have taught me and have concluded with my own talk to say, it's okay to be exactly who we are, exactly the stage we're at, with the incredible lessons that we might not know how to tell fully, but we sure as hell know how to start. So, thank you.